I guess this would be the equivalent of me spotting a pastizzi in the middle of Shanghai. I take a photo of that. All right. I'm in the BYD Atto3, taking it for a drive in the second video featuring this vehicle. If you've missed the tech focused review, make sure you check it out. It is being linked in the description below. But today I'm going to be taking this car for a drive. I'll be telling you all about the different driving modes, regen, charging experience, and of course that all important efficiency rating, how much range I get here in the real world. But as always, my name is Luke and welcome to another episode of The Future is Electric. Now this isn't the first time we're seeing a Chinese brand on the channel, right? So we've already seen MG, we've seen Volvo, and we've also seen Smart, which is 50% Chinese ownership. But BYD are possibly the only ones who are not hiding behind a European badge. So they're Chinese and they are proud to be Chinese. I mean, they have the sales to prove it, right? So, but you can start to see this new wave in the automotive industry happening. I mean, the Chinese have lagged behind their European and Western counterparts in the automotive industry for years, and they've been trying to catch up and catch up. But perhaps this change is exactly what they needed to do that, because essentially the auto industry had to go back to basics, right? We were rewriting the rules of how and what it takes to build the automobile of the future. And let me tell you, when it comes to the electric tech, they probably already have the upper hand over the Europeans. So a bit of information about the car. It is an SUV, so you have a nice high up driving position. You can very easily, from my height at least, see the front of the vehicle, right? It does start to feel like a bigger car than it actually is. I think that's coming from that bespoke EV architecture which is present here. And of course, the second you want some good power, the car does give it to you. So it's 200 brake horsepower, as we spoke about in the tech review, right? So the second you put your foot down, there is more than enough power to move you forward and overtake if need be. What else? I mean, the interior, of course, is nice. The quality of the materials for this price point is actually probably pretty good. There's no customization option, so these are the colors you will get, irrelevant of the trim level. What is the price point after all, right? So this is in Malta. After government incentives, the car starts at just under 26,000 euros, and that's the base one, right? And then just for a couple thousand euros more, literally not much, you go to the top spec. But the only difference in the top spec is you get a bigger screen than this. This screen is absolutely huge for a car, right? At 12 inches, but you can upgrade to a full 15 inches, which is literally like having a laptop as your center console. And you get that, and you get an electronic tailgate. So not much difference when you upgrade to the car. So one of the unique things I found about this car, and I haven't seen it in any EV I've driven yet on the channel. Basically, if you navigate through the settings, which are actually quite easy to do, so actually it's not a very complicated menu, there is an option called range display mode, and they have their standard and their dynamic. And basically what this means is, in an EV, the second you start to press on the gas, you get the range figure updating in your dashboard. That's how many kilometers you have left before you need to charge again. And what tends to happen is, if you're suddenly flooring it, you're going to start to see that range fall down. So that's sort of the what they call the dynamic mode, which is not the default in this case. The BYD default here, we interrupt this program for a dose of internal combustion, and we are back. So basically, in the standard mode, if I suddenly start to accelerate, the car is not going to react right away. Okay, so the range figure doesn't suddenly decrease because it felt me give it that instant jolt of power. So it's gonna average out a lot longer. I like that because that you really get to start this is what hits the range anxiety, right? If you're suddenly going up a hill and you start to see your range 4, as happens in most EVs, you start to get a bit worried. But sure enough, the second you start going down the hill, the range will start to go up again. And it's not going to happen here in the BYD because they're averaging out the range over a longer period of time. So a bit about that regen, right? I touched about it in my first review. So regen is the car's ability to recharge the battery when going downhill or when slowing down, right? Now, this is where I am a bit disappointed here. So I have it in the highest mode possible. So it is set to high. They have a standard and a high. And let me tell you, it is barely noticeable. So visually, you do see that the car is charging on the display in front of me here. It charges up to 22 kilowatts when decelerating, which is quite high. But you do not feel that, right? So this is very strange, I would say. So definitely not a one-pedal driving experience, not even close to that. I have been told they can add this through a software update, and I believe that because it is a software feature at the end of it, how you control the regen. But what they're giving us right now with the car is a very light form of regen. For an EV enthusiast and someone who's driven a bunch of EVs at this point, I miss it. For someone coming from an internal combustion engine, then it's gonna be like your other car anyway. So let me tell you a bit about these driving modes. So we have 3 driving modes to choose from. They're toggled from right here in the center console. We basically have an eco mode where the car is going to be most efficient in using the energy in the battery. Then if I toggle it once, I get to the normal mode, which is sort of the in-between, right? And then if we have the sports mode, which definitely adds a lot of power. So one funny thing about the sport mode here is they actually have a 0 to 100 km/h speed timer in the dashboard. So if you want to ensure that the car does the 7.3 seconds 0 to 100 km sprint, you can actually set it from the menu and actually check that, which I guess is fun. Hello. The Chinese tourists are taking a photo of me, or probably the car. I guess this would be the equivalent of me spotting a pastizzi in the middle of Shanghai. I take a photo of that. All right. Valletta waterfront charger. It is completely free. We've got 4 slots. So we're gonna give this charging experience a go. The car does not need to charge at all. I've barely depleted the battery. But I'm gonna see the charging experience and share it with you nonetheless. Put it into reverse. The reversing and 360 cameras are just amazing, by the way. Very, very clear. And this is not from some high-end brand, right? This is a pretty much let's call it an economy brand, and the cameras are quite legit. They've got cameras on the mirrors, they've got cameras in the front and the back, and you get this amazing 360 on the screen, which makes parking so easy. All right, so as I said, the car really doesn't need to charge, but I wanted to give it a try here on the Valletta solar powered chargers. These are free, by the way. And so I plugged it in, started charging right away, and I'm getting 10 kilowatts of power. So this is an AC charger, which means the car does come with that 3-phase 11 kilowatt charger. So we've nearly hit the maximum speed of that. Now it hasn't hit the full 11. I don't think it's going to, because again, I'm at 95%, right? I really don't need to charge this thing. This is 420 kilometers of range. That's probably good for like 2 whole weeks of commute for the average driver here in Malta. So my running around today has only depleted by 5%. So while we're here waiting at the charger, actually let me just tell you a bit about the warranties being offered with this vehicle, because they are quite interesting actually. So the battery gets an 8-year warranty or 200,000 kilometers. That, to the best of my knowledge, is the best being offered, at least here in Malta. So we have 8-year warranties on most electric car batteries, but however, it's generally 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. This is up to 200,000 kilometers. They're of course able to offer that because this is an LFP battery. If you want to learn more about that, check out my Tech Focus review where I explain it in more detail. The drive unit, that very cool 8-in-1 system, gets an 8-year warranty as well, or a 150,000 kilometer warranty. Basic coverage of everything else is 6 years or 150,000 kilometers, and the bodywork gets a full 12 years. So when it comes to warranty, this is quite top of its class, not only for an EV, but for a car in general. Now, one of the amazing things, of course, the party trick with this car is the ability to rotate that center console, right? So at the touch of a button, either from the screen or from right here in my console, I'm not sure if you can see that in the GoPro footage, just about probably, it basically rotates to this portrait view, and you can use it as you wish. I guess this is going to be based on preferences. The first time I've ever seen a car do this. So just one click, you can rotate it from landscape to portrait. Perhaps some of the apps will work better in that orientation. One of the greatest things I found about this screen and infotainment setup is the Apple CarPlay. So it's not wireless. I did have to connect my phone with the wire, but once it was up and running, it's the best I've ever seen it in any car, because it takes up the full real estate of the screen. That may be a bit of a con as well, right? Because even the air conditioning controls are sort of lost away. You have to exit Apple CarPlay to re-access them. But I don't mind that, right? I like that I get full Apple CarPlay, and it's literally like you have a whole iPad system mounted over here in your car. So I like that a lot. Let me tell you one thing I didn't like about the screen, and I guess it only becomes apparent because of the fact that the screen rotates, right? So these are polarized sunglasses, as is the case with most sunglasses, and my guess is that this screen is polarized as well, because the second I change it to the portrait orientation through my sunglasses, I can literally see absolutely nothing. Take them off and it's 100% okay. But with the sunglasses, it is a black piece of glass because the lens is being polarized, right, with the screen. So that doesn't work in the portrait orientation. Go back to landscape and it is just fine with or without the sunglasses. But with them in portrait, doesn't work. It's like completely black. So that's one con I found about this rotating screen party trick. But other than that, I absolutely love this display. It's one of the most responsive ones we've seen in any vehicle, to be honest. And all the apps look great. It is based on an Android system. So there's that. Of course, we talked about the 3D camera, which is just amazing. So in case you're wondering, this car has scored a 5-star safety rating from NCAP here in Europe, which means it gets a full marks essentially, and it's able to achieve that not only because they actually crash the vehicle and see, you know, what happens to the adult and child occupancy, but also because it has a number of electronic and advanced safety features included. So what are these safety features? So we have blind spot detection on either side of the car. So we've seen this on the channel a number of times now. We also have lane keep assist. So the second the car feels through that front-facing camera that I am veering off my lane, I'll get an audible warning, a vibration of the steering wheel, and then the car will ease itself back to the center of the lane. We have collision detection warning. So again, if it feels now through a front-facing radar that I am not reacting to something that's going on in front of me, first you will get the warning, and then the car will emergency brake as well if it feels the need to do so. Now all this is topped up with some so to speak auto drive features. So what we have is a basically a cruise control setting. So you basically set the speed you want to drive at, and you can remove your feet completely off the pedals, and the car will adjust the distance. That was my phone. That will adjust the distance to the car in front of you, basically, and you can set how comfortable you are with that. So you can set the distance from over here. I have been trying that out. Perhaps the next party trick here is the auto steer. So I turned that on as well, and basically the car will do the small, minute changes of direction when it comes to the steering wheel as well. Though I have to be honest, it does shut itself off the second there is a sharper bend. So you need to use that with quite a bit of attention, right? Because it will turn itself off. There is a beep which warns you that it's turning off, but this isn't a full auto steer as we've seen in some cars, particularly the Tesla, which we saw on the channel during our road trip, right? But it works nicely, and on a highway situation, not like I'm using it here in Malta, that's a nice feature to have, right? All right, so I've decided to test out the self-driving features of this car. There we go. So I'm not pressing the gas pedal at all. So I've set the speed limit basically, and it's going to keep to the speed limit I've set. But it's also turning the steering wheel, right? So it is definitely following the lane, and the second that car pulls up in front of me, it will slow down there. And from adjusting the steering wheel, I can increase or decrease the speed. I can also set the distance I am comfortable with the car keeping from essentially the car in front of me. So the steering is really what gets you. So I'm keeping my hands definitely on the wheel. Okay, so I've just parked. I've been driving the car for a while now, definitely the past 50 kilometers or so, and the efficiency readout is currently 15.4 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. So from that we can deduce the actual real world range based on how I've been driving the car, and I've had it in sport mode, so I wasn't the most economical, that's for sure. So how do we work that out? So this car has a usable battery of 60.5 kilowatts. I'm going to divide that by the 15.4 reading I'm seeing here, which gives me 3.92, and I'll multiply that by 100 kilometers, and which means the real world driving range here in Malta, based on how I've been driving the car today, would be 392 kilometers. So slightly shy of the 420 kilometers WLTP. But as I said, if you have this car and drive it longer than I have, that's for sure, you probably bring it down and you will hit the WLTP rating. It's worth mentioning though, this is ideal conditions at the moment. So the temperature outside is 22 degrees Celsius. So we're very close to the battery ideal temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. If it gets colder or hotter, that yes, will affect the driving range. But as you can see, we are nearly at the WLTP rating following today's test drive. So now that I'm parked here, let me tell you a bit more about this interior, because let me tell you, it's got all the bells and gadgets, right? It does not feel like this is one of the most affordable electric, if not the most affordable electric vehicle on the market at the moment. So of course, huge screen, right? 12 inches, which you can then upgrade to 15 inches, a full laptop's worth of screen real estate, which is nice and responsive. We've got electronic mirrors, we've got an electronic sunroof, we've got this Top Gun inspired gear shifter right here. We have wireless phone charging, right? So literally I just put my phone in and it's charging. And I know it should be that way, but it isn't always that way in all the cars I've tested. So you do have to sometimes fiddle around, right? So let me try throw it in this way and it's charging. So this is the way things should work, and I'm very nice to see that it's actually working. And perhaps the coolest feature in this car, and each of the people in this car get one, so you've got one on either side of the front doors, and the two back doors at the back also have it. It's what I like to call the while I'm in traffic entertainment, which is basically the door bins which double up as a guitar string, and you can actually if you're musically inclined, which I'm not, you can totally make a tune as you're stuck in the morning rush hour traffic. Okay, there is a small screen in front of the steering wheel, nicely positioned. Okay, steering wheel nice and big. The quality of the materials, let me tell you, again, it doesn't feel like this is a bargain car, because they are very well and very nicely put together, including the center armrest over here. Everything is nice and solid. Of course, nice and solid, but a bit quirky. You do have to get over the bit of the quirkiness of this design. You definitely cannot say that they've copied anyone when it comes to the design of the interior of this car, because it is extremely unique, including the way you open the doors from this this lever. I'm not even sure if you call it a lever, because you basically pull back on what is one of the speakers in the car, and that opens the door. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this little drive here with me in the BYD Atto 3. Again, if you haven't seen my tech focus review, make sure you check it out. It is being relinked in the description below. But as always, I hope me and the BYD have convinced you that the future is electric.